Welcome back to Military Matches HQ, where we explore the machines that shaped history. In this video we turn our attention to one of the most unusual and misunderstood tanks ever built in Britain. The TOG II is remembered today not for victories on the battlefield but for its great size, its eccentric design and the story of why it was created. To understand the TOG II we need to travel back to the early years of the Second World War. In 1940, after the fall of France, Britain was facing the possibility of invasion and preparing for a long struggle. Many in the War Office feared that the conflict might again resemble the First World War, with static lines of trenches, obstacles and bloody stalemates. To prepare for that situation, a design committee was formed made up of the engineers who had created the very first tanks in the Great War. This group became known as the Old Gang, or TOG for short. The Old Gang believed the next generation of tanks should cross trenches, break through fortifications and support infantry in slow, heavy battles. Out of this vision came the TOG I and then its successor, the TOG II. The second design was meant to refine the concept and give Britain a heavy tank that could dominate the battlefield if the fighting slowed into another stalemate. The TOG II was enormous. It measured more than 10 meters in length and weighed about 80 tons. It looked like a relic from the First World War instead of a modern tank of the 1940s. Its stretched hull was made to cross wide trenches and its huge tracks gave it the ability to crawl over broken ground. Yet it was not stuck entirely in the past. Unlike the earlier heavy tanks, the TOG II carried a rotating turret, which meant it could mount increasingly powerful guns. In the end, it carried the famous 17-pounder gun, which later proved itself on the Sherman Firefly. That gun gave the TOG II the ability to destroy even the toughest German armor. Powering such a giant was a serious challenge. The designers chose a Paxman diesel engine linked to an electric drive system built by English Electric. The engine generated power which drove motors that turned the tracks. This was ambitious for the time and made the TOG II advanced in some ways. In tests the system worked, but the tank remained painfully slow and very demanding to maintain. The inside of the TOG II had plenty of space for crew and ammunition because of the great size of the hull. The armor reached up to 114 millimeters thick, which gave it protection against German weapons of the early war years. On paper the tank looked formidable, with strong armor, good firepower and space for supplies. In reality it was already outdated by the time it appeared. By the time the TOG II was ready for trials, the war had changed. Blitzkrieg tactics had shown the value of speed and movement. British designs were moving towards faster and more balanced tanks such as the Cromwell, the Comet and later the Centurion. Compared with these machines, the TOG II was too heavy, too slow and too difficult to transport. It was powerful in theory but useless in practice. Only one prototype of the TOG II was ever built and it became known as TOG II Star. It was tested and modified but never produced in numbers. Instead it became a platform for experiments with new weapons and new technology. Today the single surviving prototype stands at the Bovington Tank Museum. Visitors are amazed at its scale and odd shape. It is remembered not as a war-winning weapon but as a fascinating link between the trench machines of 1916 and the fast modern tanks that shaped the later years of the Second World War. The TOG II never fought, but it remains a remarkable part of Britain's tank story. It represents the determination of the old gang to use their First World War experience in a new conflict, even though the battlefield had moved on without them. Thank you for watching Military Matches HQ. If you enjoyed this look at one of Britain's most unusual tanks, please like the video, share it with history fans and subscribe for more stories about the machines that shaped our world. Until next time, keep your sights steady and your tracks moving.